Sometimes the hardest lesson in life is accepting that not everyone is meant to stay forever. We become emotionally attached to people because of shared memories, comfort, love, or expectations for the future. For the future, when someone walks away or circumstances separate us, the pain can feel overwhelming. We begin questioning ourselves, wondering what we did wrong, why we were not enough, or why allowed the separation to happen. Yet the reality is that every person who enters our life comes with a purpose, and once that purpose is fulfilled, Allah may gently or suddenly remove them to guide us towards something greater. Human beings often confuse permanence with love. We assume that meaningful relationship must last forever, but life itself constantly changes. People grow, priorities shift, and paths diverge. Allah in His infinite wisdom knows which connections will strengthen our faith and which ones may eventually harm our emotional or spiritual well-being. Sometimes the very person we desperately try to hold on to is someone Allah knows will distract us from our purpose, weaken our peace, or delay our growth. What feels like abandonment may actually be protection from unseen harm. Letting someone go does not mean the relationship had no value. Every interaction teaches lessons about patience, kindness, boundaries, forgiveness, or self-worth. Some people come into our lives to support us during difficult moments, while others arrive to teach us resilience through hardship. Even painful endings carry hidden wisdom. Allah may use certain experiences to mature us emotionally, strengthen our reliance on Him, and prepare us for relationships that align better with our future. Often, we try to force what Allah is quietly removing. We chase after people who have already distanced themselves, hoping to restore what once existed. In doing so, we exhaust our hearts and overlook the signs Allah places before us. When doors repeatedly close, it is not always rejection. Sometimes it is redirection. Allah may be steering us away from emotional dependencies so that our hearts learn to depend primarily on Him rather than on fragile human connections. Accepting that someone is not meant to stay requires humility and faith. It means trusting that Allah's knowledge surpasses our limited understanding. We see only the present moment, but Allah sees the future consequences of every relationship and every attachment. The person we cry over today may have been the reason for greater pain tomorrow. By removing them now, Allah saves us from trials we cannot yet comprehend. There is also mercy in separation. When certain people leave, we are given the opportunity to rediscover ourselves. We reconnect with our goals, strengthen our identity, and rebuild our relationship with Allah without distraction. Emotional space allows healing to begin, and healing opens the door to personal transformation. Many individuals only discover their true strength after losing someone they believe they could never live without. Another important realization is that our value does not decrease when someone walks away. Human acceptance is not the measure of our worth. Allah created every soul with dignity, purpose, and honor. Sometimes people leave simply because their journey is different, not because we lack goodness or effort. Understanding this protects the heart from unnecessary self-blame and restores confidence rooted in faith rather than in validation from others. When we surrender to Allah's decree, peace slowly replaces resistance. When instead of asking why someone left, we begin asking what Allah wants us to learn. Gratitude replaces resentment, and hope replaces despair. The absence of certain people becomes an invitation to grow closer to Allah, to develop emotional independence, and to prepare for healthier connections aligned with divine wisdom. Human beings naturally form attachments to people, dreams, and expectations because the heart seeks comfort and stability. When we find someone or something that brings happiness, we begin to believe that our peace depends on its presence. We build emotional investment around relationships, careers, or plans, convincing ourselves that losing them would mean losing everything. However, Allah's wisdom operates beyond human emotions and limited vision. What we consider essential for our happiness may not truly be beneficial for our future. And sometimes Allah removes what we love most because He knows it cannot accompany us toward what is better. Attachment often blinds us. We focus only on how something makes us feel in the present, while Allah sees the long-term consequences that remain hidden from us. A relationship may seem perfect today but may lead to emotional harm, spiritual distance, or heartbreak later. An opportunity we desperately chase might distract us from greater blessings waiting ahead. When Allah takes something away, it is not an act of cruelty. It is an act of mercy, guided by knowledge we do not possess. The pain we experience comes from our attachment, not from Allah's decision. Many people struggle to accept divine replacement because they compare what they lost with what they currently have. They remember the comfort, familiarity, or joy attached to the past and assume nothing better could exist. Yet Allah promises that He replaces loss with goodness for those who remain patient and trust Him. The challenge lies in believing in unseen blessings before they arrive. Faith requires surrendering control and accepting that Allah's plan unfolds according to perfect timing rather than human desire. There are moments when we pray intensely for something, convinced it is the answer to our happiness. We make dua, work hard, and emotionally invest ourselves completely. When that prayer is not answered in the way we expected, disappointment enters the heart. We may feel ignored or confused, questioning why Allah did not grant what seems so right. In reality, unanswered prayers are sometimes redirected prayers. Allah may protect us from outcomes that would have harmed us spiritually, emotionally, or even physically. What appears as rejection may actually be acceptance in a different form. Trusting Allah's plan requires shifting perspective. Instead of asking why something was taken away, we begin to ask what Allah is preparing for us next. Loss becomes a transition rather than an ending. Every closed door indicates that another path exists, even if we cannot yet see it. Allah's plan is never random. It is carefully designed to guide believers toward growth, maturity, and deeper reliance on Him. When attachments are removed, hearts learn to anchor themselves in faith rather than in temporary worldly things. Patience plays a central role during these moments of uncertainty. The heart may resist change, longing to return to what felt safe and familiar. Yet growth rarely happens within comfort zones. Allah sometimes removes certain blessings temporarily so that we develop strength, resilience, and gratitude. Through waiting, we learn humility. Through loss, we learn appreciation. Through uncertainty, we learn trust. One of the most beautiful aspects of divine planning is that Allah often gives beyond what we imagine. Once we release unhealthy attachment, a person may lose a relationship only to discover inner peace they never experienced before. Someone may miss an opportunity only to find a path more aligned with their purpose. Allah replaces emotional dependence with spiritual strength, confusion with clarity, and temporary happiness with lasting contentment. Accepting Allah's plan does not mean the heart stops feeling sadness. Emotions are natural and human. What changes is the understanding behind those emotions. Instead of viewing loss as punishment, the believer begins to see it as guidance. Each moment of surrender strengthens faith and brings the heart closer to recognizing that Allah's wisdom is always greater than human attachment. Letting go is one of the most difficult actions for the human heart because it requires releasing control over something we deeply care about. People naturally want certainty, emotional security, and outcomes that align with their own desires. When situations change or relationship end, the instinct is to hold on tighter, hoping persistence will restore what once existed. Yet true faith teaches that surrendering to Allah's decision is not weakness, it is strength rooted in trust. Letting go becomes an act of worship when it is done with the belief that Allah's wisdom surpasses human understanding. Tawakkul, or reliance upon Allah, means placing complete trust in His plan while continuing to move forward with patience and dignity. It does not mean abandoning effort or suppressing emotions. Rather, it is the balance between doing what we can and accepting what we cannot control. When someone chooses to leave or when circumstances shift beyond our power, Tawakkul reminds us that Allah remains in control even when life feels uncertain. The heart finds peace not because the situation becomes easy, but because it recognizes that Allah's decisions are always guided by mercy. Many people misunderstand letting go as giving up. In reality, letting go means releasing resistance against Allah's decree. It is the moment when a person stops fighting what has already been written and begins trusting the direction Allah is guiding them toward. Holding on to what Allah is removing often prolongs emotional pain. The heart becomes exhausted trying to revive situations that are no longer meant to continue. Tawakkul allows healing to begin because it shifts focus from loss to divine purpose. Letting go also teaches humility. Humans often believe they know what is best for their lives, yet experiences repeatedly show how limited human vision can be. We may cling to relationships that harm our peace or chase outcomes that distance us from our faith. Allah, who knows the unseen, may remove these attachments not to hurt us, but to redirect us toward growth and protection. Accepting this reality requires surrendering personal expectations and trusting that Allah's knowledge includes wisdom hidden from our immediate perception. There is deep emotional freedom in trusting Allah fully. When reliance shifts from people to Allah, fear begins to fade. The believer no longer feels destroyed by rejection or overwhelmed by uncertainty, because their sense of stability comes from faith rather than circumstances. Tawakkul transforms the heart from dependency on temporary things into reliance on the one who never changes. This transformation strengthens resilience, allowing individuals to face challenges without losing hope. During moments of letting go, patience becomes essential. The heart may still ache, memories may remain vivid, and questions may arise. Tawakkul does not erase emotions, it guides how those emotions are handled. Instead of reacting with anger, resentment, or desperation, the believer chooses acceptance and prayer. Each moment of patience becomes an expression of trust, demonstrating faith even without visible reassurance. Letting go also opens space for spiritual growth. When attachments fade, the heart gains clarity about its true source of peace. Many people discover a stronger connection with Allah after experiencing loss because they turn toward Him seeking comfort and understanding. Difficult transitions often become the beginning of deeper faith, sincere dua, and personal transformation. What once felt like an ending gradually reveals itself as a new spiritual beginning. Trusting Allah during separation or change requires courage because the future remains unseen. Yet Tawakkul teaches that uncertainty is not emptiness. It is a pathway guided by divine wisdom. Every step taken with reliance upon Allah carries hidden blessings, even when immediate results are unclear. The believer learns to walk forward with hope, knowing that Allah never abandons those who place their trust in Him wholeheartedly. Goodbyes are rarely easy to accept because they challenge the emotional bonds we build with people and experiences. When someone leaves our life, the immediate feeling is often grief, confusion, or even betrayal. We tend to focus on what has been lost rather than considering what may be gained through the separation. Yet, many goodbyes carry hidden blessings that only become visible with time, patience, and reflection. What feels painful in the moment may actually be Allah's way of clearing a path toward healing, growth, and inner peace. Sometimes individuals remain in our lives longer than they are meant to simply because we fear loneliness or change. We tolerate situations that quietly drain our energy, weaken our confidence, or distance us from our values. Allah, who understands the condition of every heart, may remove certain people to protect us from emotional harm that we fail to recognize ourselves. A goodbye can become an act of divine mercy, even when it arrives unexpectedly or painfully. Many relationships teach important lessons rather than lasting forever. Some people enter our lives to show us kindness during difficult periods, while others reveal areas where we must grow stronger. Through conflict, disappointment, or separation, we learn patience, self-respect, forgiveness, and emotional maturity. These lessons often shape our character in ways comfort never could. Without certain endings, we might remain stuck in environments that limit our development or prevent us from becoming the person Allah intends us to be. One of the hidden blessings of goodbye is clarity. While we are emotionally attached, it can be difficult to see reality objectively. We may ignore warning signs, excuse harmful behavior, or compromise our being to maintain a connection. Separation provides distance, and distance brings understanding. Over time, many people realize that what they once begged Allah to preserve was actually something that disturbed their peace. The absence of that situation allows the heart to recognize the relief and stability that follows. Goodbyes also create space for self-discovery. When a person who occupied a large part of our emotional life is no longer present, we are forced to reconnect with ourselves. We rediscover personal goals, strengthen our independence, and rebuild confidence that may have been overshadowed by attachment. This process encourages emotional healing and personal transformation. Allah sometimes removes distractions so that we can focus on our spiritual growth and realign our priorities with purpose and faith. Another hidden blessing lies in protection from unseen outcomes. Pray hard. Allah knows future circumstances that remain invisible to us. A relationship that appears promising today might lead to deeper pain tomorrow. By ending it earlier, Allah shields us from trials we could not endure. What feels like heartbreak may actually be prevention of greater suffering. Understanding this perspective gradually replaces resentment with gratitude, even if the realization comes much later. Goodbyes also strengthen reliance on Allah. When human support fades, believers often turn more sincerely toward prayer, reflection, and remembrance of Allah. The heart learns that ultimate comfort does not come from people, but from a connection with the Creator. Through loss, faith deepens, sincerity increases, and spiritual awareness grows stronger. Many individuals experience their closest connection to Allah after enduring separation or disappointment, because hardship redirects their focus toward eternal rather than temporary sources of fulfillment. Healing after a goodbye takes time, and patience becomes essential during this process. Emotional wounds do not disappear instantly, and memories may continue to surface. However, every day of acceptance brings renewed strength. Slowly, the heart begins to understand that endings are not punishments, but transitions designed for growth. The goodbye that once felt unbearable becomes the turning point that led to greater peace, wisdom, and emotional stability, guided by Allah's perfect plan. One of the deepest emotional struggles people face after someone leaves their life is the feeling of rejection. The mind immediately begins to question personal worth, replaying conversations, actions, and memories in search of mistakes. Many individuals assume that if someone walked away, it must mean they were not good enough, not lovable enough, or somehow lacking. This way of thinking places human validation at the center of self-worth, forgetting that true value comes from Allah, not from the opinions or decisions of people. Every human being is created with dignity and purpose. Allah fashioned each soul intentionally, giving it unique strengths, personality, and meaning. When someone chooses to leave, their decision reflects compatibility, timing, or personal circumstances rather than the value of the person left behind. People often enter and exit our lives based on their own journeys, struggles, and destinies. Their departure does not erase the goodness within us or diminish our importance in Allah's eyes. Society often teaches individuals to measure their worth through acceptance, popularity, or relationships. When approval is given, confidence grows. When it is withdrawn, self-doubt appears. It creates emotional dependence on others for validation. However, relying on human approval is fragile because people's feelings and choices constantly change. Building self-worth upon something unstable leads to repeated emotional pain. Islam teaches believers to anchor their identity in their relationship with Allah, whose love and knowledge remain constant. When a person leaves, it may simply mean that their role in our life has ended. Not every connection is meant to last forever. Some people accompany us only for certain seasons, helping us learn lessons or experience moments necessary for growth. Once those lessons are complete, separation occurs naturally according to Allah's plan. Recognizing this helps shift perspective from self-blame to acceptance. Instead of asking, "What is wrong with me?" the heart begins to understand that the journey itself required change. Rejection can also become a powerful opportunity for self-reflection without self-condemnation. It allows individuals to evaluate their emotional boundaries, communication habits, and personal goals. Growth does not come from believing we are inadequate, but from recognizing areas where improvement can strengthen character. Healthy reflection leads to maturity, while destructive self-criticism weakens confidence and faith. Allah. And courageous growth through patience and self-awareness, not through feelings of worthlessness. Another important realization is that Allah sometimes removes people who cannot appreciate our value. Remaining in environments where one's kindness, loyalty, or sincerity is overlooked can slowly damage self-esteem. Separation may protect a person from continuously seeking validation from those unable to recognize their worth. Allah may be preparing space for relationships where mutual respect, understanding, and appreciation exist. Understanding personal worth also changes how we respond emotionally to loss. Instead of chasing those who leave or begging for acceptance, individuals begin to maintain dignity and self-respect. They recognize that what is meant for them will remain without constant struggle. Confidence grows when self-worth is rooted in faith rather than external approval. The believer learns to walk away from situations that compromise emotional health, trusting that Allah's plan includes connections aligned with peace and respect. Healing from rejection requires patience and compassion toward oneself. Emotional wounds may linger, and moments of doubt may still appear. Yet gradually the heart learns that being left behind does not mean being abandoned by Allah. On the contrary, Allah remains closer than anyone who departs. Through prayer, reflection, and renewed self-understanding, individuals rediscover their inner strength and realize that their value was never dependent on who stayed or who left. One of the most comforting truths in faith is that Allah never takes something away without replacing it with something better. Human beings often struggle to believe this during moments of loss because the pain feels immediate while the replacement remains unseen. When a relationship ends, an opportunity disappears, or a long-held dream fades, the heart naturally focuses on what is missing rather than what Allah is preparing. Yet divine wisdom operates beyond human timing, and what Allah replaces may arrive in forms we never expected. Loss creates an emotional emptiness that can feel frightening. People fear that happiness will not return or that life will never feel complete again. However, many blessings cannot enter our lives until certain attachments are removed. Just as a gardener prunes branches to allow healthier growth, Allah sometimes removes people or situations that prevent us from reaching our full potential. What feels like deprivation is often preparation for something more meaningful and lasting. Allah's replacement is not always identical to what was taken away. Sometimes He replaces a person with peace, chaos with stability, or confusion with clarity. The heart may initially resist these changes because it longs for familiarity. Yet over time, believers often realize that the calmness they gain after loss is more valuable than the attachment they once struggled to maintain. Emotional relief, renewed faith, and inner strength become gifts that surpass what was previously held. Patience is essential during this transition. The period between loss and replacement can feel like standing in uncertainty, unsure of what lies ahead. This waiting period strengthens reliance on Allah and teaches trust beyond visible outcomes. Many people expect immediate compensation for what they lost, but Allah's timing is precise. He gives when the heart is ready, when circumstances align, and when the blessing will truly benefit the believer. During hardship, it is easy to assume that loss signals punishment or abandonment. Yet faith teaches that Allah's mercy continues even when life feels difficult. Sometimes He removes distractions that distance us from Him so that we return to sincere prayer and reflection. The replacing. D may not only improve worldly circumstances but also deepen spiritual awareness. Through trials, believers rediscover gratitude, humility, and dependence upon Allah rather than upon temporary sources of comfort. Another aspect of divine replacement is personal transformation. When something important leaves our life, we are forced to grow in ways we might have avoided otherwise. Strength develops through patience, wisdom emerges through reflection, and emotional independence grows through reliance on Allah. These internal changes prepare us to receive future blessings with greater appreciation and maturity. Without experiencing loss, we might never recognize the value of what Allah intends to give next. Allah's replacements often exceed expectations because they align with what we truly need rather than what we merely desire. A person may lose a relationship only to find a healthier connection later. Someone may face failure only to discover a path that brings deeper fulfillment. Even when the replacement is not immediately visible, believers trust that Allah's generosity is never limited. Every hardship carries within it the seed of future ease. Gratitude plays an important role in recognizing divine replacement. When the heart remains thankful even during difficulty, it becomes more aware of subtle blessings that appear along the journey. Small moments of peace, new opportunities, supportive people, and renewed hope gradually reveal that Allah has been providing all along. The believer learns to view life not through the lens of loss, but through the certainty that Allah's wisdom always leads toward something better, even when the process requires patience and unwavering trust.